Hello friend, I want to tell you about the Mazda 6 car. Mazdas, like Hondas, have an unblemished reputation among a wide group of drivers. Considered durable, solid Japanese cars cost a lot and no one is surprised. You have to pay for a good car. However, be careful, because sometimes you can fall into a trap. The Mazda 6 2 generation is a perfect example of a generally solid car with a problematic engine. Engines. In the Mazda 6 2 generation there were 4 petrol engines and 4 diesel engines, but not all of them were available on the European market. It is not easy to find a 2.5-liter petrol engine. Much more popular were 1.8 and 2.0 engines with power of 120 and 147 HP respectively. From diesels we have 2.0L 140 HP and 2.2 in 3 power versions from 121 to 185 HP. We will deal with the quite popular, not only in this model, 2.0 MZRCD diesel with power of 140 HP. It was already used in the predecessor, as well as in Mazda 3, 5, Premacy and MPV. It was also the most problematic. The 2.0 MZRCD engine was a modern design when it debuted under the hood of the first-generation Mazda 6, but it has become a bit stale over the years. Compared to its competitors, it had good parameters, 330 Nm of torque, but its operating characteristics were not impressive. Good acceleration required exceeding 2,000 revolutions per minute, but in return the engine had good fuel consumption. What's broken? Classically, we will start with the worst, and there is quite a bit of that. The 2.0 CD engine was characterized by trouble-free operation until about 200,000 kilometers. Then it was a tragedy. The tragedy was not in the failure rate, but in the prices of spare parts. The injection system was prepared by Denso, and the injectors could not be regenerated. Now it is better. New injectors at ASO were prohibitively expensive, as were all other parts. Even typical consumables reached sky-high prices. Now it's better, because the replacement market is developing, but it still doesn't solve problems with engines that have already worked their way through. The oil strainer or lubrication channels were frequently clogged in this engine. This is not only a design defect, but also the effect of the extended 20,000 kilometers engine oil life. Conscious users had no problems with the crankshaft seizing and the bearings turning. You also need to carefully monitor the oil level, because a lot of it increases in the unfinished process of burning the DPF filter. Diesel oil, which dilutes the lubricant, has a significant impact on the wear of this engine. However, if we do everything correctly, we can still get unlucky and the oil pump will lose its parameters. As a result, the lubrication will be too weak. The reason is the gear wheel driving the pump, made of 2 weak materials. The filings get into the oil and are retained on the strainer, which ends up clogging it. The circle closes. How to deal with this? The best thing to do is to take excessive care of the car as if it were a racing car. Change the oil at most every 10,000 kilometers. Every 3 to 4 changes remove the pan, clean the strainer, check its condition. A conscious mechanic can significantly extend the life of this engine. Another problem is the injection system. The durability of the injectors is still acceptable, because it is a solid Denso, but the washers are not so good. They should be replaced regularly. Problems with the injectors manifest themselves in uneven engine operation, which is not uncommon in this model. RPM fluctuation and jerking during acceleration are not isolated cases. The timing belt is durable, although it is better to replace it every 100,000 kilometers. It is driven by a solid belt. There are no particularly big problems with the turbocharger, but variable geometry increases the rather risky cost of regeneration. The clutch and dual-mass flywheel are not among the weak components either, thanks to the weak bottom of the engine. Unfortunately, a badly treated gearbox can start to fail. The lower gear synchronizers are the most common. That is why a better and cheaper solution is the automatic version. Unfortunately, the gearbox is not the fastest and worsens the diesel dynamics, but the classic converter and solid construction allow you to forget about its minor flaws. The chassis cannot be said to be of any bad quality. Typically and in Japanese style, durable components are expensive. However, because a significant portion of them are only available at authorized service stations. Nevertheless, the suspension will not cause problems. The steering system is a different matter. Unfortunately, the gearbox is at fault here and most often needs to be replaced. Knocking and vibrations occur, or a problem with turning in one direction. The durability of the body has been significantly improved compared to its predecessor, which rusted like crazy. Unfortunately, the Japanese paintwork is not very scratch-resistant. The bad news is that everything points to rust approaching rapidly in a few years. The durability of interior elements is better. The Mazda 6 is not a cheap car to maintain. Even if all the components are trouble-free, a sudden engine failure can ruin the household budget in the blink of an eye. It's worth having a reserve of $700 minus $900 in case of an emergency with this car. Unfortunately, it requires the care of a good mechanic who knows the diseases of Mazda and this drive unit. You should be prepared for frequent oil changes resulting not only from the shorter replacement period, but also because of the DPF filter and the oil getting into it. The Mazda forum can help with many problems, but you shouldn't be fooled by the number of problems described there. Remember that internet forums are just a handful of users in the scale of all owners of a specific model. Although the suspension is not problematic, it is worth checking its geometry often because improper one can quickly destroy tires. The Mazda 6 is a popular model for thieves, mainly because of the high cost of parts. That's why insurance against theft can be expensive. It's a good idea to additionally protect your car. Is it worth it? A difficult question. The problematic nature of this car would be bearable if it weren't for the repair costs. There are many much worse cars that users can cope with. Generally, you can buy a diesel, but it's better to look for a bigger one. However, a fairly good choice would be the petrol version, at least 2.0L. Then we are dealing with a real Japanese, one of the last in this segment. Many of the faults typical of diesel engines are eliminated in the petrol engine. Overall, the car is not bad and can be recommended, but it is worth bearing in mind that Mazda operation is not cheap. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I haven't mentioned, be sure to write about them in the comments.
I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what breaks and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carme.pro.